on that particular committee?
I think I said at the curriculum committee meeting that I really, the personal finance course is one of my babies that I really fought so hard for to get into the original curriculum of the high school. And then last year we wanted to make it optional. I said, no, it should be a requirement. And there are so many issues that we should be dealing with in the personal finance committee from the high school website, 5 major areas, overarching, no, that's the wrong thing. The course will provide an understanding of many economic principles: money management, budgeting, saving, investing, compound interest, risk and return, credit, insurance, human capital, financial markets. There is so much there that our students need to study and to learn about. We don't, there's so many credit crises going on right now and foreclosures and all this type thing. When they go to college, they're bombarded with take my credit card, do this, easy credit, no payments for such and such. And I think that they desperately need, as high school juniors and seniors, a good semester's worth of look to your future. Understand insurance. Are you going to be overinsured or underinsured when you're 29 years old and have your first child, and all of a sudden everybody's trying to sell you everything? That said, that's why I didn't think that this book was particularly appropriate for a personal finance course. I thought that it belonged to many other places. It could belong other places. Now, on the swearing issue, I know there's a few words, and I've read it twice, and I kept trying to find those things in the pages and mark them. When I came from a sheltered home. My parents never, ever, ever, ever swore in front of me. When my husband, we were first married, and I'm working as a waitress in the summers to make money, the first time I walk into a kitchen, I heard 20 times the bad words that are in here. And I think that's kind of what she's setting the stage for the new world that she's moved into. There's the words that you quoted, that's about, to me, unless I missed one, that's about all there is on the swearing. Now, sure, we don't want to teach our kids to swear. Of course we don't want to teach them to swear. But it's kind of, she's explaining the world that now she has left this nice, comfortable, upper middle class world and moved into the low income wage world where people swear at you and yell at you and treat you sometimes extremely poorly. Also, I guess it's your perception. Because the whole, the wind, is, we, in writing classes, you teach students sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And her thing in the Tent Revival is a prime example of that. We could use that in an example of in a writing class. This is the worst way to get your point across, because it seems her underlying point is not prejudice toward religion at all, as I interpret it, and as I read it, and as many people have emailed me, and this type thing in the last several days. It's the opposite. She's saying Christ is a living, breathing lesson for us. He's not, why do we keep crucifying him? And she says, shut him up. Let's listen to what he said. Let's listen. She said, why don't they read the Sermon on the Mount and talk about how he cared about the poor people, how he wanted, the attention on that part of the population. Wine guzzling. This would be a great cultural comparison things. Everybody drank wine in his time. As you know, in John 2, 1 through 11, the whole thing about the miracle of turning water into wine at the marriage feast in Cana of Galilee. Wine was valued at that time. Now, I'm getting too historical here. After the Second Great Awakening, all of a sudden it became bad in some religions in America. So maybe she's showing us that, okay, at certain times, what we may consider being bad were good things in Christ's time. The vagrant thing. He came from a pastoral society where many people wandered constantly with the flocks. She may have been saying people that wander around the country looking for jobs and looking for an employment, don't criticize them, because they are just like Christ wandering the country searching for souls. There's so much more positive in that in that whole section. I was just kind of amazed that, taken out of context in that one little sentence, that somehow that became this incredible negative, where I looked on it as she's saying a very positive thing, and she says she's an avowed atheist. But to me, used Christ and religion in a very positive fashion. Later on, she said something about she worries about these people, and she hopes that the God that protects Melissa and the sparrows will look out for them. And you've heard that famous song about, the sparrows in the field. So there's a lot of lessons to me in this book.
Focusing his comments just on the book.
Yes, in comments right now just on the nickel then dimed text.
Yeah, in reference to this book, first an introductory, free enterprise and capitalism has given us the highest standard of living in the history of the...
Excuse me, sir, you need to state your name.
Sorry,
That's
Dick
okay.
Barr, 9 Polly Peabody Road, Bedford. Free enterprise or capitalism has given us the highest standard of living in the history of the world. Low income or poor in America would be very rich in most parts of the world. The people of the United States, not the government, have been the most giving, helpful to the rest of the world. This is a result of free enterprise or capitalism, not socialism. Socialism has always oppressed the masses and improved the lives of a very select few. Russia, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, to name a few. And although not Marxist, Nazi Germany was, the Taliban is, and Al-Qaeda is. It is said, and I agree, that if we refuse to learn from history, we are destined to repeat it. I hope and pray that we never forget the history of socialism. Just a little background on the author. She was born in 1941, studied at Reed College. Her senior thesis entitled Electrochemical Oscillations of the Silicon Anode. She received a PhD in cellular biology from Rockefeller University. She has no economic or financial background whatsoever. American Humanist Association named her the Humanist of the Year in 1998. She is currently an honorary co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America. She serves on NORML, Board of Directors. NORML is the National Association for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Is it any surprise that she claims urine drug tests deter from potential applicants, violate liberties while having little tangible positive effect on work performance? She concludes her book by disputing the argument that recipients of government or charitable services, like welfare, food, or health care, are simply living off the generosity of others. Instead, she suggests that we live off them. This book appears to be nothing other than a thinly, very thinly veiled attempt at socialism indoctrination. I presume that most of you, if not all, profess being Christian, of one flavor or another, yet the defaming of the one you claim to serve is of little consequence to you, and yet you would never in a million years dare use such a book if it made a defamatory statement against Mohammed. How dare you do that? Please be considerate of others. You would be in threat of your life if this said Mohammed was a wine-guzzling vagrant, and you would never dare put that into the curriculum. Yet you do this to our students. I beg you, please reconsider this. You would never do this if it included him. I say to you, how do you spell hypocrite? I spell it Bedford, S-A-U.
Hi there. I'm Chad Johansson. I live at 18 Bourbon Street. I am a senior at Bedford High School, enrolled in the personal finance class right now, and I'm also on the student government. Our class recently read the book. We were required to read the first 2 chapters of the book, not the 3rd chapter, which include a lot of the political viewpoints and a lot of the religious items. And the book, as I saw in our class, a lot of the kids read it, and you don't get that in a lot of classes with some of the books. The book sparked a lot of discussion about the working poor and how we can work on that in the government and how we can get everything fixed up. I thought it was interesting how the book really did get everyone thinking about how we can help others and what we can do in our life to outreach to everyone else. So I personally thought it was a great book and widened my view on the world and outside of Bedford, which you don't get a lot of around here. You don't get to see the viewpoint of going into the New York City subway and seeing a homeless person or houseless person, as they like to be called, sitting there in Bedford, where you don't see that very often. So I thought it was a great book.